Good morning. At the moment, the sun hasn't quite risen over the canopies, and that's our horizon at the moment. The sun has, because we're still in daylight saving time, we have later sunrise. And so now, even though it does, because actually, technically, we're at 7:30, right?
Yeah.
Human-made time. Yes, good morning. This is your usual babble on the Daily Egg to start the day, because what's the point of starting the day with sense and logic? Because nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. It's crazy to see such a beautiful day unfold. And the air is so still. And there is murder and mayhem and chaos and atrocities. Chaos is good. I like chaos. But murder, mayhem, atrocities and evil doings, you think, when you wake up, you think maybe something different today.
Maybe.
For the world. Something changes in the world. But I don't know. So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about. I should perhaps tell you a little bit of news items today. Gosh, look, I don't know. By the way, this is the new image of the black hole that is in our. That's not in our. It's in our galaxy. So we're in our galaxy. We're in the Milky Way, and that's
so
what.
Is that the center of the Milky Way?
Shows our Milky Way galaxy's central giant black hole in polarized light. Isn't this amazing? Like, look at that. Cool, huh? So we should really be talking about more things to do with the galaxy and the solar system that we are in, because we have got a solar eclipse on April 8th, and it's coinciding with a lot of very interesting other things. Esoterically speaking, I shouldn't say esoterically, because I do consider astrology a science, and I have introduced you to the wonders of the science of astrology, and you two agree this is fascinating.
It is, right.
So I will continue to talk about all of that, and also because we are all searching for truth and fact, and you know where you can find it? The Daily Egg. Ta-da! Yeah, I may need to wake up a little bit more, but that's okay. So what else is happening news-wise? Come on, people, give me the news. Gosh, I swear. And I don't really know who to trust anymore news-wise, because even in Australia, a very interesting thing has happened where people are not trusting ABC, and that is our trusted news source. Now we know Israel wants to close down Al Jazeera, and the font of truth, logic, and news information, and they say it's skewed towards, the people of Palestine and people of, I don't know, I think they want to say because of the term Al Jazeera, and I don't really know what Al Jazeera means, but if they want to close it down.
Well, then they should close down Fox News.
Yes, they don't want to do that, of course, because it's on their side. Anything that's on their side, they don't want to do. They don't want to close down. Of course, it's just. But having said that, look, I'm going to say something really contentious, and I think I've been wanting to say it for a while, and I really don't know how to say it. Because I am definitely anti-genocide, and I am pro-humanity, and I am pro the people of Palestine, because I want them to live and enjoy life. I want these adults who were children, who were tortured and traumatized then, because they've been living in this for 76 years now, more a little, actually, but definitely in this way that they are, definitely for over 75 years now. I want them to enjoy peace. I want them to know what the rest of us in the world are privy to, that the world is actually a peaceful place. And would you believe that the people in Palestine and people living in Gaza, and they'd have you believe that the Gaza Strip is just like a strip, because strip, right? So when you call someplace a strip, it's just a street, a long street. on a beach, you know. So the strip at, say, Surfers Paradise is just that whole, you know, the beachfront road. Gaza Strip had 2 million people living there. It's this little city. It's a beachside, gorgeous suburb, and that's why they want it. Because hello, even the White House advisors, or previous White House advisors who are related to the Orange Clown, you know, they come right out and said, well, the Gaza's great beachfront property, and that's all they want that for. And of course, there's a lot of things there. So this is not being about religion, and it is about race, because these are ex-European refugees, and unfortunately there is that ingrained racism and bigotry in them, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and I do think that people do need help. Anyone who thinks that they are superior to anybody based on racial grouping, skin shade, and religion really actually needs some help, because that is sociopathic thinking based on constructs. Skin shade is not a construct. However, the treatment of people according to skin shade is a construct. What we actually wanted to talk about today was Sherlock, because we've been talking about Sherlockian ways of thinking. That's inductive thinking. Sherlock's a detective, a very famous detective, Sherlock Holmes, created by Arthur Conan Doyle. And there's a lot of things that everyone knows. Sherlock Holmes is one of those things from the Eurostream pop culture that has traveled the world, as a lot of things in the Eurostream pop culture tend to do, but people don't know. Do we know China's most, famous character? I keep saying that means my brain is still waking up. Do we? I mean, do we know India's? Well, I do know some, but there's no recurring characters. There's no recurring... The one thing the Eurostream has been able to do really well is have recurring characters and consistency of excellence in them.
Yeah.
In movies, in books, in characters throughout time. And they've been able to successfully carry that. James Bond, it's usually male, which is a bit annoying because anything to do with women, which should be carried on further. Take, for instance, Hollywood, movies like Salt, starring Angelina Jolie, Lara Croft, starring Angelina Jolie, Wanted, starring Angelina Jolie. So anything to do with Angelina Jolie should have gone on to, be a franchise. Charlie's Angels, the original, not the television show, which I was a fan of, but I really, really, really love the show. The movie with Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu, which brings me back to Elementary. Actually, Sherlock and Elementary, my dear viewer, was never something Sherlock said in the books to Watson. It was said in some movie or the other. I think it may have been the Basil Rathbone movies or shows when they did that ages ago, Sherlock Holmes, and that's when Sherlock was wearing his, his deer hunter cap, and had his pipe, etc., and his shawl, etc. Now, we're talking about Sherlock because I have introduced Dwayne to Elementary, which was the American version of Sherlock Holmes' story, starring Johnny Lee Miller as Sherlock Holmes, still British, but now based in New York, and Lucy Liu as Joan Watson, Dr. Joan Watson. And this is what I loved it from the moment, because I love Lucy Liu.
Yeah, she's awesome. I never got into Elementary because
it's American.
Yes. Plus, I had already watched Sherlock.
Yeah.
And I thought, how can you top this? Because Sherlock is brilliantly made. So I didn't even bother with Elementary.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because number one, it was American, and yeah.
Well, I did, because I have to share some very important news with you, friends, my darling. Of course, you know this. I had the esteemed role of being president of the Sherlock Holmes Club in Class 6. I may have been the only member, but that doesn't mean anything. I was worthy of being president of the Sherlock Holmes Club, and my friends, indulged me and would go on, little mystery tours around the school.
So you weren't the only member.
Well,
You just dragged your friends along for the.
I could technically say I was the only member and I dragged my friends around. But I was also the president of it, and so I had a duty to not force people into it, but also a duty to encourage people to join me in my escapades.
I would have totally been in.
Absolutely, we know that you and I would have been doing everything together. We are a couple, as if we have been together from the moment. And this is a bit of an interesting thing because there is an age difference between us, but it doesn't matter because I do believe Dwayne exists. Dwayne should have been in the timeline I grew up in, especially in Fiji. I do feel that that's where.
How interesting if you were in my timeline.
Your timeline sounds. Sorry. Naughties.
See, this is the thing.
I'm Gen X.
But this is interesting. See how every generation thinks they're better than the next. You know what I mean? No, I mean it's
yes, but
interesting.
millennials thought they were better than us. Gen X think they're better than everyone. I'm not condoning any of this behavior down to the generational gaps.
But yeah.
Okay, but in the noughties, right?
Yeah.
So look, life changed in the noughties, and for reasons, life has to change. Life has to continue to change. It can't just.
This is the other thing we were talking about before: competition.
I hate competition. That's why Gen X is best.
But you're very competitive.
I am not. I'm just a Gen Xer.
Yes, sorry. Gen X's are very competitive. So are boomers.
Yeah, boomers are the problem.
Yeah, boomers are very competitive. So,
Boomers are a major problem
well,
because
you
they want
guys
to.
grew up in that era, right?
Boomers are our parents.
Yeah.
And I still don't know if the classification is right for where we live. Now, I grew up in England at a time when the boomers were booming, and so I guess that did come through into me. But when going back into Fiji, it was still very much a booming lifestyle. Generation X, though, Gen X, I don't know if that really, because it has also got a lot of this description or defining of the generations does also come down to financial status.
Well, I think so too. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
There is our first episode on our podcast, Radio Fly, was excuse me, I just need to do some housekeeping here. Is a very interesting one, we think. Well, I mean, I don't know, we think, because we say this, but it's called Seasonal Chickens, and that started from a conversation we had about spring chickens. What's a spring chicken? I'm in my 50s. I feel very, very vibrant and youthful. Not youthful, young, and I don't care about looking young. I like looking fresh and maintained. So, what is a spring chicken? Because I do have the body that has been on this earth, the vessel has been on this earth for over 50 years, so of course there's going to be wear and tear, and those of you who know my backstory know I have had some wear and tear due to violent experiences, etc. But, it's, where was I? Generationally speaking, I don't know. I guess I have really lost my thread. So every time I say I don't know, I've lost my thread. So try and help me out here if you're here. But we're going to go back to what I'm originally talking about. And I know I started talking about the generations. And we are defining, generations by the socioeconomics as well. And that's what didn't quite hit Fiji at that time. So Gen X was not quite, it started a bit late, maybe.
All right, cool. Okay, I guess.
Gen X, who are Gen X, didn't get into their stride until their 30s. They didn't have the things in the 20s like the boomers were encouraged to.
Yeah, right.
So even though boomers gave birth to Gen X, the Gen X in certain areas, all these generational definitions are very American. They're American.
Right. So what would you classify yourself as? What
I'm Gen X, for sure,
yeah.
but I will go by global definition. Because of my life and the way I was brought up, and etc., etc. Now, because I was brought up in England, going back to England, and the most famous address in England, and no, it's not Buckingham Palace. It's not even where Shakespeare was born, and that's Stratford upon Avon.
Yeah.
What?
No, I don't even know that.
Oh right, well.
I don't know. I wouldn't even think of Buckingham Palace.
Oh right,
the
sure.
most famous address in England.
Well, I think it would be Buckingham Palace.
No.
No, it is 221 Baker Street, isn't it?
That's it.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
That street has become extremely, yeah. But again, not outside of itself. It isn't a pop culture term. It's just pop culture trivia.
Yeah.
So we don't use that term to describe, well, hey, this isn't 221 Baker Street, hello, or something like that.
221B.
221B, sorry. 221A is the landlord. No, she doesn't live next door. She lives in, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's 221B. So we are talking about the differences between and I don't know any of the producers and directors behind any of this. I only know the main actors.
Yeah.
I'm quite, I'm sorry about that. We've called into it this. Usually we do these things on our finalysis, which are our reviews of movies and television shows, and they're accompanied by Dwayne's illustrations. So the soundtrack of our review, our finalysis, overlaid on Dwayne illustrating the character. There's quite a few. And next month, of course, we've got coming up. Dun, 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 I was about to launch into a different theme. I'm sorry. And I still can't get the theme into my head. Dun, 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 dun. It's the scroll. It's the scroll. I'm doing the Star Wars scroll. It's Star Wars Day next May. Next May is next month. Now next May is 2025. So next month is Star Wars Day. So talking about Sherlock. Now, I have introduced Dwayne to Elementary. And I really, really like that show starring Johnny Lee Miller, who also has the wonderful honor of being Angelina Jolie's ex-husband. And they were in this movie ages ago called Hackers, really like 30 years ago. And they somehow managed to hack their way into, I think, the American government system or something like that. And where are you two now? This is what we need. Why do we have hackers in this world? And this is a question you've asked. Why are they preying on just individuals?
Yeah.
Go and don't hack banks that are going to affect people. Because you know that even if you vigilantes out there doing these things for the right things, you go and hack banks, etc. Who pays the people? Not the banks. Yes, the banks should, should actually, because it's weird, right, that banks make profit. Banks make profit? How do banks make profit? It's weird. Why aren't we making profit? I get like 1 cent credit interest, and it's like, that's profit?
I understand they have to make some profit to pay the people working
Of
at the
course,
bank, right?
Of course.
And, utilities are shit. But
the
amount of profit they make.
The amount of profit they make is from loans, not just the transactional things, not just the gambling that you do with money and the rates and currency rates, and it's the buying of currency, etc., and forecasting and knowing. So banks seem to be, also privy to when things are going to change in the world. And that's what insider trading is. When you are privy to the changes in the world and you profit off that. Look, that's just what they call white-collar crime, Yet it affects everybody. So, let's go back to Sherlock, because I have loved Sherlock since I was a child. Love. And it's interesting that I don't know a lot about Sherlock, considering I know a lot about Diana Themyscira, aka Wonder Woman. But yeah, I guess the guy characters, I'm just content with some information. But I do love the Phantom. Anyway, speaking of the Phantom, we do have a finalysis on where you're watching this right now. Please go look at our playlist of finalysis. What are you laughing at, my darling?
So many things you like.
I know. There's so much to like. There's so much in the world to love and to like.
It's gonna hit your tea up.
Okay, great.
A minute and a half.
A minute and a half. I'll talk through my earphones for a moment, and I'll keep talking to you a little bit more about what we're talking about, which, does anyone know what we're talking about? Yes, I do. You do. So you were going to give me information, right, as to who directed, who produced.
Created by Robert Doherty.
Doherty. And that's the that's Sherlock.
No.
Elementary. And
you're talking about Sherlock.
yes, I need to know who directed and who produced
Right.
Sherlock.
So Mycroft, the guy who plays Mycroft.
Yes, that's right. Mycroft Holmes is Sherlock's older brother, and Mycroft, the guy who plays the actor who plays Mycroft in Sherlock, is actually the one who co-wrote it. And brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
So the conception and development of Sherlock.
I need you to talk to me.
Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss.
Okay, so that's Stephen Moffat, who is Mycroft, right?
I'm not sure. Might be my.
Oh, sorry.
Let me just check.
Wrong information. So this is why we shouldn't be doing this right now, and we should really be doing this beforehand, but we didn't actually know we were going to be talking about Sherlock. We were talking about Sherlock and Elementary and a few other things, and I said, hey, let's go and do the Daily Egg now and talk about Sherlock. So cold call. Usually, as you will see in our analysis, there's a lot more back information involved. The differences are that Elementary, the American version, is quite American, and it is a weekly show, and it does have that American polish, and everything is nicely tied, etc. But these are the first few episodes that Dwayne has watched, and you've really enjoyed it so far, right?
Mark Gatiss. Yes, Sherlock. Elementary?
Yes, Mark
Yes.
Gatiss did what?
He's Mycroft,
Right.
not Stephen.
Not so. Stephen Moffat is a familiar name.
Yeah.
Stephen Moffat has, I think, done quite a few other shows, because I love British television shows. I don't watch a lot anymore, but I do love them. I used to love Midsummer Murders and, all the commish. And there was this other great series starring, I don't know, Mary Kelly, this redhead Irish actress who was in Guy Ritchie's version of Sherlock Holmes. She was Mary, the redhead that played Mary, Watson's paramour, in Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes. It's all connected. Plays this incredible detective in this show, and I can't remember the name. I think it may have been a limited series starring, I can't pronounce his name. It's another Irish name. It's Kieran. He's who's the spiky dude in Snyder's in Snyder's, my God, Justice League.
Spiky dude.
The bad guy, the scary guy with the silver armor. My God, I can't remember. Not Darkseid, Steppenwolf. Thank you. God, you think I'd remember that, considering he's just sing a song by singing Steppenwolf. Born to be Wild. Stories for another time. So he plays the head detective or the commissioner, whatever. And no, I don't know what he plays, but this is another really good series. I love British television series. They're really, really good. British, but they're obsessed with murder. And they've got some crazy, hello.
But they do write murder mysteries really.
They're Agatha Christie, seriously. And I do love Shakespearean works.
Is Luther English?
Luther, yes.
Right.
I don't know if it's Luther or Luther.
Luther.
Right. So that's starring Idris Elba. Yes, it's British, and of course it's dark, it's complex, it's layered. They all are, and it's British mysteries, murder mysteries. They go darker. What I do love, and I know we've talked about this before, British television, they're not as polished. People are allowed to look normal or natural, and teeth aren't all gleamingly white, etc., etc. Except now with Sherlock, because Benedict Cumberbatch is a worldwide star.
And also Sherlock is clean, right? He's got OCD.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
he's not. He likes to live in squalor.
Yeah, like this Sherlock.
He needs chaos around him, because the only way to stay absolutely, and this is an interesting thing, because Johnny Lee Miller's Sherlock is played more like ADD.
Yeah.
and ADHD. I only know the symptoms of that from which I recognize according to how trauma affects the brain. And but the thing is, they're frozen in paralysis unless there is something to focus on. There is so much you can look at Sherlock and go, wow, okay, you don't want other people to talk. Other things, irritate him, etc. God, I could be talking like myself. So Benedict's Sherlock is a bit too much, and he's not a sociopath. People like to describe Sherlock as a sociopath. He's not.
Well, even he described himself as a high functioning sociopath.
A high functioning sociopath, but I'm not so sure that is. It's almost like that's what the public wants to hear, because he's just something with utter disdain of every other human being. And that's not exactly being a sociopath, because he's not going and destroying everybody else's lives with it. He's just got absolute disdain for everybody, and everyone's just ridiculous. But okay, he's here to save the day.
Lots of people like to think that, they would be good friends with Sherlock and stuff. Most people would hate him.
And that's why I don't like Sherlock's Benedict's depiction of Sherlock, because he's got far too many friends around him who understand him and tolerate him. But maybe that's the thing. So let's just say
who?
Watson.
Yeah.
One of the best friends ever.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Always Watson, right?
Exemplary.
Yeah.
And yet sees Sherlock and loves Sherlock for who he is. Mary, who in Sherlock, I love Mary.
Yeah.
I love Mary. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Sherlock, which you should, and I don't want to give too much away, but Mary in Sherlock, in the English Sherlock, there's only one Sherlock. She's
kick-ass.
She's very much the Mary you want. I didn't like. Okay, we'll have to talk about this character later. Isabel. No, what's her name? What's his love? Irene Adler. I wasn't a fan of Sherlock's Irene Adler.
Yeah, right. Okay, you said that.
Yes, I didn't like the portrayal. I get it that Sherlock, Irene has to be super, amazing to really interest Sherlock. But anyway, going back to what you said, darling, and the question you asked, why, who likes him? Well, he's got then Mrs.
Hudson.
Mrs. Hudson, the landlady, who is also a fantastic character. Each one of the characters in Sherlock has got a wonderful backstory, and that's what I really do love. However, maybe then I'm going to correct myself. These are all, the social pariahs of a sort, if they truly showed who they were.
Because it's almost the same in Elementary. You're Watson. We haven't met is there Mrs. Hudson? Can't be, because he's in England. He's in America. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then you've got the captain,
who is the Mrs. Hudson equivalent.
Right. So, so in Sherlock.
Oh no! The captain is Lasard's.
Yeah, Inspector.
Right.
Lasard.
So I don't know. You're right. I'm sorry. I don't know who Hudson is.
So the amount of people that like Sherlock is the same in Elementary as in.
Sure, and in Sherlock, it's about the people who really see Sherlock's kindness under the brilliance.
Yeah.
That the brilliance is really, really cushioned by kindness, and that's why it drives Sherlock to know the truth. People deserve the truth. Sherlock wants facts. He doesn't. The character itself doesn't have time for the niceties which get in the way of getting to the truth. Because people want these buffer zones of societal niceties. And this is why I love Sherlock. But this is where your observation and what you have said is true. What you said, people won't like Sherlock. People don't like a Sherlock type. But everyone says, man, I'd love to be, as you said, Sherlock's friend. Or they'd like to be Sherlock. To be a Sherlock type means you've got to be alone quite a bit.
Yeah.
And you will, in a world where we don't get to do such, cool things, the Sherlock types are considered weird and hard to talk to, etc. They're brilliant, and this is so Sherlock, as played by Benedict, and Sherlock, as played by Johnny Lee Miller, they're interesting, huh?
Yeah,
Do you like Johnny Lee Miller's?
I do. It's not the same as Benedict's.
Benedict's is.
I like that. I like that
Yeah.
it's not the same character.
Yeah.
It's two different, almost two different.
But
people.
with the same traits. This is it's quite.
Yeah.
It's quite it's very good. It's very good of the both crews of both productions to have this, and I think they came out around the same time.
They're both different, but they're both Sherlock.
They're
It's
both
weird.
Sherlock.
I don't know how to explain that.
So Benedict's Sherlock is Sherlock played with old world sensibilities
Sure.
in a modern world,
Yeah.
right? And he's still a bit of an aristocrat.
Sure.
An
Yeah.
aristocrat twat. No, twat is actually another term for female genitalia. But again, I know it's the worst one. It's not. I don't know if it is actually. It's a prat. He's a brat. He's a prat. He's just rude. Johnny Lee Miller's is a modern day Englishman in New York, but he's a bit more, I don't know. He's an ex-addict, and he's got ADD. He's very much of the times, actually. So Elementary should do great business as a rewatch, as a series to watch, because Johnny Lee Miller's Sherlock is very much of the times, the behavior symptoms, etc. And it's
right. He's more relatable.
He's more relatable to the times. He's
That's what.
but he's also he's got obvious tics, and he's got a vulnerability about him that Benedict's doesn't. Benedict's Sherlock is quite frankly invincible, and then only his close-knit circle, especially Watson, can see, and Hudson can see he's actually tortured. He's tortured by the world, because when you're a pattern seer, which is what the character of Sherlock is, a pattern seer, and a person able to connect the dots, to see the patterns and see where it's going to go next. That's inductive reasoning, not deductive. Deductive just takes everything at face value and then forms a picture from it. Inductive reasoning and thinking is observing everything and basically going for the plausibilities or the possibilities. Occam's razor comes into it too. It's a scientific way of, the most plausible, the simplest explanation is actually the explanation. That isn't infallible. That does fail, because sometimes people are way more complex, but they are predictable.
But if you can't, it's almost like if you can't figure it out, it's usually the
okay.
simple.
Thank you. That's it. And so inductive reasoning. Let me just explain to you what inductive reasoning is, and I really think a lot more of us should apply that to the way we are in the world, because that is sitting back and observing. Just give me a moment. But what else do you like about about Elementary, darling? We're not sponsored and we're not encouraging you to do anything. It just
I like Lucy Liu in it.
Yeah, she's so cool.
She's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
But I like that she's Watson.
Watson.
What a cool take on it.
Yes, very, very cool take. This is why I knew I had to watch it. Lucy Liu was always going to be a draw card for me. She is an incredible, incredible human being, an artist, and all sorts of things. She's a painter. So anyway.
Oren.
And Oren is she.
That's it.
Man, the perfect Oren is she. Frankly, I didn't like the way she her character died and killed Bill, but that's okay. The characters all had their part to play.
That's right.
So what is inductive reasoning? Inductive reasoning is a method of drawing conclusions by going from the specific to the general. It's usually contrasted with deductive reasoning, where you proceed from general information to specific conclusions. So basically what I said. So with deductive reasoning, you see everything and then you draw a conclusion. With inductive reasoning, you look at everything and you pinpoint on specific things and you think, how could that have happened? What could have led to that? So you basically start from inside out, and deductive reasoning, which is what most people do, is from the outside in. So that's why Sherlock, inductive reasoning people can actually see truth faster and clearer. And what is an example of inductive reasoning? Inductive reasoning is when you start with specific. So, for example, if you notice that every time you eat spicy food you get a stomach ache, you might use inductive reasoning to conclude that spicy food causes stomach aches. Yeah, you could use that. That's inductive reasoning. That seems like deductive reasoning to me. You've got a stomach ache. There are very, very many reasons. And so then you have, but people don't, but I think you have to go back to the cause of it, right?
Well, it's deductive if it's already happened. It's
Right.
inductive before it happens, so don't do it. Is that what that means? Don't eat.
I mean, how do you apply that to a crime? Or how do you apply that to a spicy stomach? You've already eaten it. So you've got a stomach ache, and then you go, why do I have a stomach ache?
Yeah.
And that's what did you do? What did you work out? So is it that kind of stomach ache? No, it's another kind of stomach ache. So I guess you've really got to pinpoint the causes for everything. Yeah. Deductive reasoning is when you're not well. Go to bed kind of thing, I think.
Sure.
So stomach ache means the stomach ache is the reason, and that so that because your stomach ache will then cause you to act in other ways.
Yeah.
This is getting a bit more complicated unnecessarily. Let's just go back to talking about Sherlock and Elementary and the differences. So I do absolutely enjoy the American version, the Elementary, only for the way Johnny Lee Miller portrays Sherlock. And I really like that it's he's a bit more vulnerable. So you can see that there's something going on with him, and he's not as begrudging in his well, thank you. And I like you, and I really, I don't know. I feel I resonate with Johnny Lee Miller's Sherlock quite a bit, but I love Sherlock. What a masterpiece in production, the English Sherlock. I was just saying that with Johnny Lee Miller's Sherlock, I identify, I resonate a bit with. Because I said,
Sorry, I've noticed the view. I've done it with Sherlock as well, but more with Elementary. The character is more similar to you than Sherlock.
Well, it's so funny. A character I have identified with since I was 8.
And when we first met, I deduced your Sherlockian.
You did say that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Because of just the questions I asked you to get some things out, and how I was able to, deduce something or figure stuff out or read a pattern or understand things. I just like that. I really do. And as I have said, I said it yesterday, and I've said quite a few times for long-term viewers and those of you who know my background story, I was born into privilege, but I was also born into trauma. And because of that trauma, I had to learn to read the room and individuals very quickly before I could even speak. So that capacity to deduct things, to deduce, deduce, sorry. I suppose deduction. And it's a reduction to the truth. So I like to read the pattern. I like to find what the truth is. But as I had said before, I like that he's a bit more vulnerable. You can tell there's something there. He doesn't mean to be an ass. There's just something there, and he's not really an ass like Benedict Sherlock is. He's just, Benedict Sherlock is very much, don't touch me. And Johnny Lee Miller's Sherlock is, do you have to stand here? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit more. It's a bit different in that there's still that same
very different,
trait, and he's begrudgingly more open to saying thank you, that kind of thing, and I like that. He's a bit more human than Sherlock of Benedict's portrayal, who seems superhuman.
Yeah.
In a way that but as you see Elementary further, now this is just the first few episodes and you've already liked it, you'll see that actually this Sherlock is quite regimented.
Yeah, sure.
And it's an interesting thing. And we already see that Lucy Liu's Watson is very much when she does the 100 squats, but then Sherlock does 1,000. Because he's obsessive.
Yeah.
Whereas Watson she knows how to regulate. So this is where I think Johnny Lee Miller's Sherlock has got ADD or ADHD. He gets obsessed, focused, hyper focused on something, and the rest is nah. So yes, he's got OCD, but he also doesn't want to clean the house up.
Yeah.
Someone will do it. He doesn't like living in dirt, but someone clean this house up. I don't want to, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So whereas Benedict's was happy to live in squalor, and that's not the Sherlock I know. I understand. Sherlock could not live with mess because you do need to find. But so one thing I feel they got wrong a little was the mess Sherlock lived in the English one, because he does need chaos, because that's the Sherlockian mind's everything clarity.
Yeah.
You know, everything is clear when everything is out. But it does need more, like if you see the elementary mess, if you see how cluttered or decluttered, or you know, what the mess is like in elementary. This is not a very interesting daily egg for you if you're not a fan of the shows or of the character we're talking about. But I guess this is just some interesting points I like, because I like the mess that is in the elementary house, Sherlock's house, because it's mess in very organized clutter.
Right, so he's got a few things going on.
Yes, projects everywhere. I love that. So that's what Sherlock's always got going on. Yeah. So in the Benedict Sherlock, the mess didn't make sense to me because I can't live in mess. I can't, you know, and I'm applying that to me to understand the character more, that I know what would appeal to me. So Elementary's Sherlock's mess is, you know, it's not mess, it's just projects and post-its and locks and photos and this, you know, right. All in organized things, you know, and so it's all neat and clean around it all, and I like that structure. I love structure, but we need it to be according to how, you know, we want it. And so when, so Benedict's Sherlock's mess was like, no, that would be, he wouldn't be able to think straight in a mess like that. He needs organized mess.
Right.
You know, heap of his books he'll just put there so he can focus on another project there. Kind of thing. So he has 10 things on the going to tell you this, that he can finally focus on what he needs to. And that's what Johnny Lee Miller's Sherlock really depicts well. It's quite, I like it. I really like it. And he's a recovering addict. So he's going to be a little bit messy in his structure, his ways to get his mind structured again. So I really do enjoy that about that. And of course I do like mystery, and Lucy Liu as Joan Watson, as Dwayne said, is a stroke of casting genius, and her character is not a mere sidekick, like Watson was never a sidekick. And even Martin Freeman's portrayal of Watson in Sherlock is exceptional. What wonderful storytelling, you know? Wonderful storytelling. One thing Dwayne and I have never quite understood is why, say, Fiji doesn't have, you know, because it's not like we lack the creativity, lack the funding, sure, but they've got a lot of money to do other things. You know, I read somewhere that Fiji's GDP is actually in the billions, gross domestic product. And we're at the, you know, where's all that money going? There's a lot of money allocated to mental health there, I understand. Where is it all gone? Where is it? There's a lot of things that Fiji imports now, and of course the tax is on importing, and so don't really, you know, the cost of butter now. Railroad butter, which, my friends, doesn't actually come from Fiji, it comes from railroad butter. Fiji's favorite butter from New Zealand. Anyway, Fiji used to make its own butter. My point is, butter is really expensive now because of transport costs, because as I said yesterday, or as I think I had said it on my Instagram live, but I'm saying it everywhere. Everything is so expensive because everybody wants profits. Everybody wants profits. And so this need for profit is going to keep this imbalance as it is. We are looking for equity, folks, so that we can all have prosperity. And not everybody wants prosperity in terms of the obvious and the mansions, etc., etc. Although, as I said yesterday, some of us do enjoy cars. um, you know, it's some people would be quite happy to not struggle, but just go and live in a small, lovely house on, overlooking a beach somewhere. You can do that in Fiji, but no expatriates. Just let the people of Fiji do that. First, let the people of Fiji have their allocation of land. Every single racial grouping. The colonizers and their descendants are able to do that, and good for them, because as much as I have to tell you the truth about colonization and what the Euro constructs have done to the world is as we know it now, and we cannot go back from that. So we must find a way to live in harmony and appreciate the Euro construct, what they have done, but making sure that they also understand that they do not rule us. They do not rule the world. They just did some work for us. Like, great, now we're here, we're back with the wisdom, we're going back to take it over. But we don't want to take it over. By we, I mean the ancients. By we, I mean the global majority. I don't really particularly want to take it over. I want everyone to just self-govern, and we unite as the world we are. One world. United Nations. What do they do? Jesus. I just got on to talking about something about equity and prosperity. I don't know how I got onto that, but I did. We were talking about I'm talking about correcting imbalance, and how prosperity for everybody is not shacks and cars. Not shacks, mansions and cars. Except I said that you and I do need cars.
That's right.
But everyone should have prosperity, right? I was saying, why does Fiji not have productions? We don't lack the creativity and lack the funding. That's the problem.
Yes.
And then I started talking about the cost of living, etc., and how butter, blah, blah, blah.
Arts is not supported in Fiji.
Arts is not supported in the world. Australia's arts budget, slash. Yeah. All these artists and artists being born, older artists who've never got to see their due, who will never have that wonderful privilege of seeing their artistry make them money and give them renown. It's happening because people are helping other people, but what has happened is that what this thing we've noticed, and you pointed out, is that especially brown and black migrants or children, so they are Australian. The children who are born to migrant parents, or they may be third generation. So the migrant parents have worked really, really, really hard for their children, and they want their children to what? I was going to say toe the line, but sorry, I'm losing words here. The migrant parents want their children to go and do the degrees, etc.
The same things that they did.
That's right. Sorry, Harry, I'm getting a bit irritated with my inability to talk right now, because I'm talking about it's something that is very frustrating.
Yeah.
So I don't have that. Don't worry, I don't have an inability to talk. I can talk underwater. I've tried. So the migrant parents basically force guilt, love guilt, or force their children to just go and do this and make your money and then do whatever you want afterwards.
Advice, right?
Yeah, that's advice. You can't make money in the arts, is what these parents tell their children, and their children know that because they've looked around and gone, well, I don't see any brown and black people who are doing what I want to do. The generations coming now are maybe going to change that, but there's still no money for them, and they still keep getting, we can't have funding for arts. We've got to get fighter planes up in the air because,
And maybe a submarine or two.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Just in case they come from the sea.
Just in case. And Dwayne had pointed out that, and we've talked about this quite a bit, parents and then these children who grow up to be doctors who don't really have their heart in it, and they're too stressed by anything because doctors have a shit life. That's why they just want to go and earn money and have private practices, because my God, their blood gets squeezed out of them to show that they really care. And I get it, because if you're going to be a doctor, that is really putting you in a God role. So you need to be humbled and you need to be squeezed. And how much do you want to do this? Save people. Prove it. And I get it. It's terrible. It's terrible. Doctors shouldn't be treated like that. But there has to be a better way of finding out why they are doctors. And it all comes down to, well, we're all so big on the therapy, huh? Psychology then. Psychological tests should be given to all of these people, to doctors, to police people, to no more lawyers, please. We've got enough lawyers. Everybody wants to be a lawyer because everybody wants to sue everybody. Everyone's, what's the term? Litigious. Everybody wants to, and everyone's offended. Everybody wants this. Everybody wants to sue. And it's like, what for? Why? Just to all you're showing is that the person you're suing is right, and you're just offended. How stupid, and what are you doing? And you're showing that you are the bully? People do that? I could sue so many people. That I could sue for defamation so many people, and I have proof. I could sue 5 people. And more, but that's 5 who I've got. Yes, so don't fucking, this is crazy. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about how brown, second generation children who are Australian, etc., they then pursue and fulfill their parents' wishes, and it's great. They have to, I don't know what to say about this, because they have to swallow their own hopes, go through some things that they just don't want to. Imagine having to put yourself through something, and university is atrocious. It can be hard. Imagine having to put yourself through that. And then you're not knowing that you don't really want to do that, and then holding on to somewhere in your 40s or late 30s, you're just going to then pursue your dream then. And you know what? They were smart, because they've got the money now. They've billed, $800 per second for lawyers. As doctors, I guess they do. They bleed. They do their time. They go on to other practices. They earn money. And all these people get their degrees, get their money, as you have said, and then they go and do their art. Is it smart? Well, yes, it's smart. Is it art?
It's the way to do it.
It is the way to do it if you are a person of multicultural or from a place where you do not have access to the same opportunities.
And that's why you hear all these stories, this person, famous person, wrote the first novel at age of 40, so it's never too late for you.
Yes,
it's
right.
Like, bullshit. They had to work all that time, save enough money so they could sit down for 1 year and write the book.
People in the arts are not overnight successes. So many have had to slave away at other things. I think you and I are two of the luckiest people I know in that regard. And when I say lucky, I don't mean it's, oh my gosh.
Don't feel lucky.
Yeah, well, not in this time and age, but in our advanced ages. I have had 35 years working in the arts, and I have been lucky in that where I started working in the arts was in a very progressive Fiji back then, the 80s and 90s. Yes, racially, wrought the tension. Politically, the political tensions have been there for decades prior to us even knowing that too much. I had got to actually know that in the 80s and 90s because my father was smack bang in politics. So I understood that the political thing had been going for a long, long time. I had seen how the politics was, how tense it was, how segregated it was before the coup in 1987. Because when I was, a child, my father was a politician. And prior to going off to boarding school at the start of 1987, I was then privy to a lot of information, listening to how all the leaders of the opposition, etc., we had them all at home. And I'm listening to, they were all uncles and aunties, etc. I'm listening to them talk, and I think, wow, talking about Fiji. But, the Fiji I knew as a child was just lovely. We'd just go to the seawall. We lived just down up the road from that, etc. So I have never known Fiji to be free from political tensions, and don't think I am talking about Fiji through a rose-colored elite, view. I do know the truth, and yet I did live that elite life. I do know the truth. So, but I was lucky. I was actually supposed to be studying sciences first, and then my father wanted me to study law. and journalism, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just know that I would have been good at law because I was really good at orating, and that's what I thought law is, because all the movies and television shows show you that all the lawyers have to do is, Your Honor, I object, or some shit, and they won the case, you know? And I thought, I can do that. I object to everything. So, however, that wasn't the case, and my first job at 18 was on radio. So that was it for me. You know, I knew I was always meant to be on, and radio in a corporate, you know, you have to work for other people, but still it was that. So, and then throughout my life, I have always just pursued income through arts, and it's not easy. And this is what I really, you know, what we endeavor to do with our platforms, particularly the Stylander, which is our magazine. It is a multi-channel platform. We want to showcase the artistry of people of Fiji, people who've not ever had the opportunities to do that. I come from a time when we were just all dripping art through our pores. My husband is that as well. It comes from the same place I do. And we pursued. I tell you, friends, it is really, really difficult to pay your bills through your artistry, through what you love to do. It's like the less artistic and creative you are, the more inclined you are to make money. Artists, as Dwayne says, just want to art. And then we feel guilty about charging for our artistry because, well, we enjoy doing this, but, you know, it's what we earn money from. So I suppose I should just tell you, because now I'm saying this every single episode, and it's written in the captions as well. We are looking for partners and patrons and sponsors. And join us, please. We are growing. Grow together. We are on the brink of something here. People are looking for truth. People are looking for fact. People are looking for magic, for science, for spirituality, for politics, for pop culture. People are looking for all of it. They don't want to have to choose, but they want transparency and they want truth. I know I do. I know Dwayne does. You know, I know it's hard going. And if you are here, you're meant to be here. And if this is too much for people, well, I have to be okay with the fact that they're not ready to listen to what is being shared here. It's not about what I say. It's about what I'm sharing, because, oh gosh, sometimes I think this is coming from elsewhere. No, actually, I do know, but I just don't want to sound like I'm channeling something here, okay? I'm channeling some truth that people need. So, grow with us. Grow with us. Join us. Very, very reasonable rates. We charge per episode, and we have got many, many shows. And you can have package deals, etc. We've got those, and we've got multimedia channels on it for our platform. So you win in so many ways with us. We talk about you, regardless. If you're a patron and an individual, then we'll say this episode brought to you. If you would like if you'd like to stay anonymous, great. But believe in us. Believe in the truth. Believe in logic. Believe in transparency. You know, we would like to continue doing what we do. Artists just want to create constantly create and share. Not hoard. Artists want to keep doing, but what we need for that in the societal life cycle we live in and the constructs we live in, which are important, we have things in place, a system in place where we pay. That's barter, because we can know my art for your build my house type thing. Sometimes it's not fair because the equipment, you know, is expensive. Sometimes the art equipment is expensive. Sometimes the house equipment is expensive. There's no fair balance here. So we trade with that energy that came to be known as, that we now know as money. Just energy, not to be hoarded. Money belongs to no one. Money belongs to everyone. And it needs to be shared. When it comes into your hands, great. Pay your bills and go and support other artists by going to, I don't know. It's not about disposable income. You need to have thoughtful, mindful expenditure. You know, spend well. Spend on living well. Spend on others so that they can live well. Oh, that's what equity is. And artists have to struggle when they're the ones who are willingly sharing beauty and anything that comes under artistry, music and poetry and photography. And anyway, everything is just it's so crazy. So we made leaps of faith, and I refuse to buckle to this idea that I have lived life as an artist, and I have been very privileged to do so, and cocooned by privilege. My lifestyle was privileged. My relationships gave me a lifestyle of privilege. I cannot deny that, but I didn't waste it. I made use of it. I made use of my privileges and the opportunities that those privileges gave me, and I worked on my artistry. And I also shared as much as possible. Now is the time when that was all just training for this where I am now, because I believe women in their 50s are now finally where they need to be in order to get things done. Anyway. Well, that's me for today, really. That's us for today. We're talking about Sherlockian thinking, inductive reasoning, the differences between the British Sherlock, which is Sherlock.
Well, maybe we'll do a review.
Maybe we should do a review. And you can draw the two different types of Sherlock as portrayed by Benedict Cumberbatch and Johnny Lee Miller in the two different productions of them. Both excellent. The British Sherlock was done as mini movies, and so there's not enough of them. These are definitely things, shows you can watch over and over again. And I've introduced Dwayne to the American series Elementary. For those of you who've come in late, Sherlock Holmes is a very favorite character of mine, and you appreciate Sherlock too.
I love him.
And it's very, the way of thinking. I think we all need to have inductive reasoning. Start from the specifics. Why is everything the way it is? You can't actually deduce from that. You have to be able to go inside yourself and go, well, that's why everything is the way it is. I can change myself. Or something like that. But anyway, thank you for being here. I believe it is now time for the Daily Egg. Ta-da! The most important part of the show. All right, well, that's us. Really, we should do a finalysis of Sherlock and talk about the different shows. Please do check out our finalysis playlist. And if you'd like to sponsor it, please do come on board with us. By the way, if you're an egg manufacturer, a chicken, no, you're not a chicken. If you're an egg, wholesaler or whatever, think about coming on board with us, the Daily Egg. Who better than to extol the virtues of an egg than us? Hit us up. Email is in the caption, and so are the rates. We're very transparent here. We just want the world to grow together. Evolution requires revolution. Thanks for being here. Bye.